And in Europe, major corporations, we're talking Meta, Amazon. I mean, we could probably go down the list. Every day we get a new one that comes
Whichever
up,
way the wind blows, right?
right? It's scaling back their DE&I initiatives in response to both political and financial pressures, right? On both ends of the spectrum. But it's hugely challenging. The challenge is that because we're looking at it like a political issue, we're really having challenges with companies being able to kind of stick to their guns and continue down this path. And I think we can have a long conversation about where the root of this sits, but I
Right.
think there's a lot to unpack there. A great example, Lloyd's banking group in the UK, when instead of getting rid of DE&I, they're just weakening their targets, or they're changing where their targets are being placed.
Well, maybe it's a recalibration, to be fair, to that extent too. Maybe it's a recalibration, and it's a fair point in certain areas. If you have the right data and the right intention behind
Right.
it, maybe some companies needed to recalibrate. They're
And
keeping the spirit of it, but maybe they need to recalibrate versus wiping it off the slate.
Right, right. And I think what we're going to probably see, my gut reaction is the pushback on the move away completely from DE&I is going to be this move towards talking about recalibration. Right now, the question is going to be, what is recalibration really? Right. And what is the impact of that as we start to see it going forward?
Fascinating. And I also want to give a shout out to my airline, Delta Airlines, for keeping it real and sticking with it and putting it in the forefront, how they're champions for it. So shout out to my homies over at Delta Airlines. And last segment here, let's talk about leadership and representation. Again, getting the women still shut out of power. Why? Women rule the world.
Yeah, they do. I think there's two parts to this story, which I think is really fascinating. One, so there is a global decline in women in leadership roles. When we look at all leadership roles across the board, we are looking, if we just look at government roles, right? Government ministerial roles, government roles, there's a 22, almost 23% drop in this last year of women in spaces like that. If we look in the corporate world, female CEOs still remain at an extreme minority. And listen, it's happening everywhere, even in China, where they are trying to deal with this.
Really?
This is interesting. Who knew we were going to be talking about China being a little bit at the forefront here, but they are finally dealing with the issue around marital and parental status, and that not being used as a determiner for both jobs and promotions for women, which has been a huge piece. The challenge here is, listen, what's happening, however, on the flip side of this, we have leadership and representation issues still being a huge issue, but women are not sitting quietly on the sidelines, which I appreciate greatly. They are switching up the game, and they're going entrepreneurial. And so we are seeing huge numbers of female entrepreneurship and self-employment. Women who are looking for high levels of flexibility. They're seeing with economic pressures and trying to balance childcare costs and job insecurity. They want control over their careers.